everybody, and welcome to another episode of Coffee on the Coast. My name is Jason Prigge, and I am here with my guest, Matt. Hello, Matt. How you doing? Good afternoon.
Hey, Jason. Hey, everybody. How are you guys doing?
You may recognize Matt. He has achieved some pseudo-celebrity with the weird Manitowoc that he's done with his buddy Carl Sraki. Those guys did a great job of talking about all the crazy things happening in Manitowoc. But the reason I have Matt on the program today is we're talking about another Manitowoc Public Library program. And I'm going to let Matt explain what it's really about. But it's also about the crazy world that we live in, but on a broader scale. Isn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Carl and I, for those that got to know us through the Weird Manitowoc program or knew us before, know that we have been friends for some time, worked together as educators at the Maritime Museum as well, where we were turned on to this book by one of the overnight program guests, a former veteran, who was like, hey, you know, this book, The Fourth Turning, an American Prophecy, really starts to lay out some of the events that were happening. And the guy's telling us it's pretty prophetic. And of course, you hear these stories of prognostication and this Nostradamus type stuff. And you go, yeah, it's kind of hard to believe. And of course, as history educators, we dig into it and do a little research. And it's like, wow, we can see these repetitions, right? There's always that adage that history repeats itself, and those who don't learn from it are doomed to repeat it. And what this book does is really takes that apart, and instead of this linear look, it applies a cyclical look over that and makes us understand historical time and then sort of a corkscrew, as well as a generational almost destiny.
Sure. It's like I said before we started the live, it's definitely on my list. I think that it's really interesting, the observation. Some of the reviews I read online were talking about, I don't usually, like guys and ladies were commenting, I don't usually read books like this, but oh my goodness, this guy has got it right. Well, the book has got it right. And so you're doing a book discussion on this, is that correct?
Yeah, sort of. A virtual book discussion, best that we can do, virtual book club. So every Thursday at 7, we have about a half hour to 45-minute episode that airs. Carl and or I are on Facebook to answer some questions live as that's happening. But the program itself is pre-recorded. We hit on some key points. We anticipate that folks who are joining us are following along, or they are hearing what our key points are, and then they're going to go dig into the material before the next week. So again, kind of a guided exploration, and we're hoping to wrap this all up either with a virtual live show, or if people wear their damn masks and we can get into the library and see people face to face, we'd like to do that if the regulations allow us to really wrap this up and discuss it. Sure. Because as I was telling you before we came live, Jason, it's one of these things that starts to lay out. Right now, we are going through the early stuff that kind of lays out the doing of the history, the more boring aspects, admittedly, of what we're talking about. But then we start to get into, these predictions. This book was written in 1997. Predictions that at or around 2005, there may be a terrorist attack. Of course, we had 9/11 in 2001, right? At or around 2005, there may be a financial crisis. Well, we've had one in 2008. We've had another one rolling here again. The potential for a pandemic that we are not prepared for. Well, right? That all starts to kind of come together. And we realize that these things have happened before. The last crisis over an 80 to 100 year cycle is what they're looking at. Would have been World War II and a hero generation. They apply these archetypes across 4 generations. The GIs stepped up and, brought us through this crisis period. And after that, we had this rebirth and a generation of artists, right? A cultural revolution in the 60s. And here we are again, this cycle and seasons of history moving forward with a crisis moment upon us. Has the catalyst happened yet? That's hard for us to say and to venture. But it certainly feels like it may be. If not, it's going to be there soon, and we're going to be moving into this, again, era of rebirth. And these generations are going to play their roles pretty well and according to script.
That's really interesting. One of the things that I used to hold as a tenet in my head when I was younger is, why study history? Why don't we just recreate history? And of course, I was young and naive back then. And as I grow older, I look back, and even on events that have happened in my own life in the past 46 years, and think, boy, we've really learned a lot from some events, and we haven't learned at all during certain events. And what fascinates me about this book, and I really hope that you guys address it, is how to maybe avoid this in the future, or if it does happen, is it something that just is set in stone, or can we control our fate? You know, I always believe that there's no fate but what you make. So learning from our history and moving forward with the knowledge of maybe what we can do different is super important as Americans. And I think it's kind of overlooked. And I love the predictive nature of the book. I hope that we can learn from that and hopefully change some of the cycles, right? I mean, I know that that's a big hope and big, wild, hairy goal, but I don't know. Are you guys discussing anything like that?
Yeah. Well, this is week 2. So tomorrow night we dive into chapter 3 of the book, which really starts to lay out the generational roles and the archetypes that are applied to them. And I posed that question this week. I posed it to Carl as the back to the future question. Right now, if we can apply a predictive method where we can foresee certain types of problems that may arise as an effect of policy and elections and that kind of stuff. And can we soften the blow? Or if a generation just decides to reject the natural archetype that their generation would fill, does that rip some type of hole in the historical space-time continuum, right? I don't know, but yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about that and looking at how we move forward. Of course, lessons that can be applied. If we're talking about archetypes, we're talking about, you know, values and characteristics that can be evenly applied across a large group. We can kind of guess how those folks are going to respond based on the different variables, right? Obviously, technology and the way we interact as a world is very different than we did in World War II. But the gravity of the challenges we face are quite the same. Right.
Well, it's so interesting. And I really want to encourage everybody out there to get involved with this program. It is actually, you have 9 sessions. I'm just going to pull this up. Yep. And already you're already into this, but it's not too late for people to join up and view these programs. It's going to be live streamed on the Facebook page for Manitowoc Public Library, which is right on this postcard right here. And it's Thursdays at 7 p.m. So just go to the Manitowoc Library Facebook page and you can join Matt and Carl as they present this. Like he said, it will be videotaped, but they will be answering questions and taking questions online. So everybody out there, please engage with your Manitowoc Public Library and engage with this program, which is so excellent, I think, and I can't wait to read the book. I'm hoping to catch a few of the episodes as well. Thank you so much, Matt, for joining me today and for being a part of our community and in the way that you are, and showing people that history is awesome to learn about and can be fun as well. I personally appreciate that. So have a great afternoon.
Yeah, you too, Jason. Thank you.